Okay, hi guys. So this is going to be a decklist discussion because I've not done one for, I don't know, is it a couple of months now? Month, 2 months, thereabouts. But I really wanted to give it time to have a lot of games. I'm approaching, well, I say I'm approaching, I'm somewhere slightly past 100 games on the list, which is where I feel comfortable making any real comments about it. I kind of delayed what I was doing in terms of putting this up because I wanted to get more time into Aurora, so that I can, speak a bit more frankly on how that's panned out. So, here it is. Quick starting point before I get to the list. I'm just going to quickly self-advertise and plug some stuff. I have a Patreon. Dun dun dun. There is nothing on it. I'm going to keep this free forever because, I do this for the love of the game. But someone very nice reached out to me a little bit ago and went, how can I give you money? And I'm not turning down free money. So, I've had this Patreon kicking around for a while. There is a $5 subscription and $10 buys you a picture of a duck. It's a very good picture of a duck. It's not. Don't. I could not care less. I would appreciate anything anyone gives. You can have a thank you up front if you're considering it. If you're not, do not feel bad. Really don't care. With that said, on to the rest of the video. Here's my deck list. What we've got is very similar to what I've been running for a very long time. I'm still on an Ether Flare and Snapback package because I just love the high rolls off it. Simple as that. Like you've got good chip damage into a lot of people. It also opens up some really good combos into people like Jarl. They try and fatigue you out, and you can pull some absolute nonsense with Flare and Snap. I like having wider lines into Jarl as well because he has disruption, and when well played, Jarl brings a problem that he will go, I think you've drawn your combo, here is some discard, and you go, oh god. What you have with this build is some resilience because you can have, your rampants, your sigils in deck, which are a combo in themselves. You can get 45 life out of a 5-card rampant sigil combo. I think is it's huge on its own. But you can also obviously pair that with a blue and an arcane damage spell or some e-pots, that kind of thing. You've got many lines, and I think having many lines is a very important step in kind of getting past him. If you only have one combo plan and he takes that plan from you, what do you do then? Whereas if you've got a flare snap combo stacked in there with all your other nonsense, you have outs to to keep up the combo. Something I very much like into those long, slow controlling ones. Into quicker games, there's just that chance of high rolling it, and to me that's a really good thing. You are giving up 1 arcane damage compared to running some slightly different spells, and honestly, the 1-for-4s are very limited in what they do. So you are just giving up 1 damage, but you are gaining that ability to just explode. And it's not just an Ether Snap combo. There are games where I will, I'll drop a turn 1 channel, and on turn 2 I'll have a Pulsing Ether and Ether Flare in my hand, and I'm able to go Surgent Ether Tide, Ether Flare, Pop Boots, Pulsing Ether, and you're throwing, 20 odd damage. 11 plus, is it 22, 20, 26 I want to say, if they don't Arcane Barrier. That feels wrong. It's 20 something. Cannot math off the top of my head. Not going to ramble out of the video. Let's just call it a solid 20. solid 20 damage from your boots, golden, take it, right? So, I kind of wanted to address that first because it always feels like a footnote. Oh yeah, I run Ether Snap. A lot of other decks just aren't on it anymore. It was kind of like the old tech in a lot of people's mind. I still love it. It's as simple as that. I like it. I like being a bit more arcane focused. And I like that because it gives me a better split. If someone drops a ton of arcane barrier, I can throw physical attacks at them more. If they don't drop arcane barrier, I can kind of block out more with some of the physical stuff and, be looking at lighting them up with things like flare. And again, you can kind of assemble those mini combos. Like, if you don't feel like you've got room into aggro very much, put an A for flare into your arsenal when you see it. And when you draw rounds to a decent enough hand to do something with it, you can go into flare snap and, really regain some tempo. So yeah, that's why I like them. It gets a bit cookie cutter for a while. Channel Millennium Tree, it's amazing because I'm playing Surgeon and it does silly things with Ether Flare and Snap. Command and Conquer, it's Command and Conquer. Felling the Crown, it's more Command and Conquer. Not much to discuss in them. Plough, because it has Decompose and it's good. I should have said, well, this is obviously not Command and Conquer because it does hand. Technically, this is more Command and Conquer. But, it's just about taking cards off people. This is a very overstated card. It's 8 and takes a card. So it's, about 11 for 3. It's super good. Plough is good, but nowhere near as much value because it doesn't hit as hard, It's a shame it's not another 8. I can understand why it's not another 8, You've got Destructive Ether Tide because it's another Command and Conquer, and because it's a blue and a 3 block. It covers a lot of ground. There are a lot of times you will just throw a slightly pumped Destructive Ether Tide at an aggro deck and it will get 5 or 6 value because it is taking a card off them. It can be very, very good. I think the next best thing to talk about is the Rootbound Carapaces. I run 5. I don't feel the need to run 6. I don't think 6 would be bad. I just never go... I very rarely go, God, I wish I had another. If I was running more, I think I'd be going into blue ones, which is a cursed subject. But basically because they pitch better, as a simple comment. I don't like yellow Rootbound. It's fine, but it's not great. But I just felt a very strong need to have slightly more Decompose access, and I would happily dip them if we ever get a good Decompose card that doesn't have the setup clause of needing 4 Earth cards, because that is exactly what these are for. They are just there to be more ways to draw Rootbound Carapaces. If you see them really early and you can't decompose with them, you can just block with them and they put an Earth card in ready for when you do find one. If you find them at the right point, obviously they are just giving you better odds of getting a Rootbound off before you get a Felling. And that really is the whole purpose of being there. I ran 4 for quite a while. I eventually pushed to 5. 5 has felt really good. We're covering D-Reacts, I guess. We have the Rootbounds. We have Shelter. Shelter, in my opinion, is our best bet. Does 2 things. 1, it breaks up a block into wands. This is what I'm going to call Crown of Seeds territory. Being able to block 1/1/1 is super, super good when you are trying not to leak random damage. It's very, very efficient into certain decks because, people who are flinging little 1 daggers at you, in general, it's helpful because you're not just leaking 3 because you can't block it. Obviously, super important for the Syndra matchup because you don't want all that Flick Knives stuff to hit and trigger the hat. But I do rate it just in general because breaking, as I say, into wands can be very, very potent. It's also quite nice because when you're playing into Kano, it's actually got some legs, and there is more important stuff to remove from your deck, and not enough space to get rid of everything. So, like my Kano board is stripping the root bounds because you cannot use them, whereas the shelters actually prevent one. And preventing one, then one, then one is actually really good into him because he's trying to he's trying to land, open the floodgates, things like that at +1 damage, and a shelter can absolutely shut down a light combo turn, especially because I've got quite a high amount of AB. So he goes for his big combo. You can AB 4 in this plus a shelter to get 5. It's quite a big deal. Sigil, because we're playing the rampant combo. Fruits, I am on 6. I have been on 6 for ages. I'm going to claim I invented that. I think Gray popularised it a lot because he had it in his list. I'm pretty sure he came up with it completely independently and owes me nothing, but I'm going to claim I did it first. Yellow, for 2 reasons. I started off on reds, trying those out. I didn't find I missed the 1 damage very much. I did find that having yellow pitch was really good. So it gives you another earth card to pitch. It's really important for things like keeping channels around longer. It's just important for being able to pay for things, because being able to pay 2 means you can pay for plough unders, you can pay for fellings, you can activate Surgeon just off the card. I'd love it to be a blue, but it's not. I have given consideration to other things in its place sometimes, but I just always end up back to it. Mind Warp, for exactly the same reason as Felling and Command and Destructive. It's a card that removes cards. It's just super good. Again, Tree absolutely pumps it. Going Tree into Mind Warp is free all the way through into most aggro decks. There's nothing they can do about it. Ring of Roses, because it is genuinely one of the most powerful cards of the game. It's just, you've got to get it down early and get use out of it. Obviously you can only have 1. If you could have 3, it would be bust. But things to know about this is, into a lot of aggro decks and things, you are just blocking it, but it's a block that's earth. Can't fault it. Autumn's Touch, it's blue, it's earth, it blocks. Nothing else to say. 2 healing potions stay in against basically everyone, because I find that you do get the mileage, at least with the style I play this deck. I will put a nod to that. I play this deck in a certain way. You might find that you do not play it the same way I do, or that you make adjustments and you might want to drop the healing potions, just into inventory, maybe even remove them. Those choices are yours to make. I can only tell you what I'm doing. I really like having 2 in the main because, generally speaking, there are a whole load of turns where you block with 3 and get to put the healing potion into play. At its very worst, it's often a 2 block. It pitches for blue, which makes it a really good thing that you can kind of cash it out if you don't want it. You can be looking at it and a snapback in your hand and go, well, I'll hit them for 5 instead. You get options from it, so I really don't find it particularly dead. But it can just enable those big combos. Sometimes it will generate 6 value or more by virtue of, popping into a rampant, maybe triggering your Verdance ability while you're at it, at which point it becomes, very efficient even into quick decks. Heartbeat, again, blue, earth, 3, also has text. Once your ability is on in a slightly slower matchup, or a matchup where you've managed to hang on long enough, it's costs 1, it does 6. If Ring of Roses is in play, it does 8. It's just solid. There is nothing about it. It is often a block, not actually played, but it's still good. Mental block. These went in for the Syndra match to give us another way of dealing with those 1 pings. Still really good. they have ended up just being in the main deck because I found that I shuffled cards around to make room for them in the main, and in the main they have kind of stayed. They're just quite good into most people. Prevent 2, get a ponder, stick the ponder thing in the arsenal because you're full blocking in a turn can be really, really good. It's obviously a bit RNG, but you've got really good odds of hitting something you'd actually want to play by using it, and then next turn you can keep a 1-card hand, block with 3 things, play the thing out of arsenal, the usual stuff. It can force good tempo. It's absolutely amazing when you do things like find a D-react off it. It's great. Finding felling the crown off it is great. That kind of stuff. It opens doors. Again, it's got play into the Kano matchup because it lets you like AB6 effectively because you can stack it on top of other stuff. So it's a good way of dealing with their combo. And the last card in the main is Will of Arcana. Take it or leave it. I like it. It does stuff. I often find it provides 3 damage, and I rarely find it's dead. Very occasionally you get caught with your pants down, and it can backfire. I'm not saying you are immune to it backfiring, but you're very resistant. You've got Surgeon to toss it into for 2 damage, which is, it's not on rate, but it's okay. Even if you're not getting the amp from it, if you're pitching it as a blue and using it to throw, a Command and Conquer, a felling, whatever, you didn't get the amp, but you did get a blue. So, I'm a fan of it. I would equally be happy running Heart of Fiendal, but I don't own one and I don't plan to buy one because I don't think it's worth enough money, basically. Like, if you are swimming in cash, 1, Patreon, 2, get yourself a heart if you want. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I don't think it's needed. And I actually don't think the will is needed. So if you are trying to trim about £50, thereabouts, I think they are, off your deck, don't run it. Stick another blue in. You'll be fine. So that's kind of the main. The inventory is... I'm going to jump to the end. Metacarpus, Alluvion. Alluvion comes in against Florian and Kano for the most part. I don't bring it in for Aurora. She does not do enough arcane that you care about. But basically, this makes your combos bigger into 2 quite slow matchups, which I find quite important. I don't think there's anyone else. Asilia. Almost forget he's a real deck. He's not a real deck. It has a place. The fact that it basically turns itself into an energy potion is a big deal in my opinion. So I really like playing with wizard pajamas. Metacarpus comes in, I would say, exclusively into Kano and Jal. It goes in against Jal because you're never going to block with your Stonewall Gauntlet because you're giving him free equipment destruction. And if you're never going to block, play Metacarpus. Some people make a really big mistake as Jal and try and blow that up rather than your hat or your boots, which is a very bad choice. And you can do a little happy dance when they make that mistake. Established Jals don't do this, but sometimes you get lucky. And, it does a damage. It might be that last little ditch you need to kill him off some sort of combo. So that's why into Jal. But this is mostly just dropped into wizardy stuff to give more arcane barrier because our glove slot is rubbish, right? We are running glorified iron rot. With those covered, inventory, 3 gravekeeping, 2 poison the well. This is so that I would say like nearly entirely Jarl, but basically CYB decks. Bring the gravekeepings in against Nu. Do not bring the poison the wells in my opinion, because she always gets lucky and manages to snag one. It's infuriating that she always does it. I hate her ability. She should not be able to just play all your blues at instant speed. It's a pain. But the poison the wells go into Jarl. They go in against Bravo. They go in against Dorinthia often, because you can't tell what she's going to be doing. There's been a few CYB builds that run it. You're basically trying to guess when someone's got CYB. For my usual side note, I hate CYB because it has counterplay, but the counterplay requires you to jam your deck full of stuff that is dead into other people. Poison the Well, at least, has the advantage of being blue, and Gravekeeping has the advantage that you can pitch a blue and go for a Surgeon, and when the Arcane Barrier, slap them with the Gravekeeping. It's not ideal, but like you've kind of got to do it into some of those matchups, because otherwise killing them becomes an absolute chore. The last healing potion is here. If the aggro deck is not that fast, I bring in the last one. Once you get onto control decks, that's when the energy potions start creeping in. I have 3. My logic on 3 is I get to play around with them more. I can pitch them a bit more aggressively if I have good turns and not worry about the fact that I've just set my only energy potion to the bottom. They are great into Kano. They are great into Jarl. I would always put one in against Dash, against probably Dorinthia, and just anyone else that you think is going to try and just stall you out with Arcane Barrier and fatigue you. They just give you so much better game because you can just do bigger combos by having energy potions. Your mileage may vary. Feel free to run less. I like them. Scour remains because it's great into Florian, who has quite good legs into us to some degree. It can also be run into Prism and does an amount of work, even though the deck is kind of cursed, in my opinion, for us. And it's very, very good into Vinset. I'm not saying you need to board for Vinset, but that's why Scour is remaining in my deck at the moment, that it has a few places where it does stuff. If you want room for something else, Snag is the first thing to drop, in my opinion. My last card in my inventory is 1 Snag. It's 1 because there's 1 slot left. It's the only reason there's 1 left. It's good into the matchups it's good into. It can be very helpful into things like Nu. I would throw it in against her. Just anybody you think who is going to, react an attack reaction up into big scary mode. There's plenty of other cards that could go in its place. I'm about to move on to covering the maybe pile. But, if you want to choose anything else instead of Snag, feel free. If you want to put more Snag in, lose some Scours. So I think the first thing I'll cover in the maybe pile, which I've refined down, is Siege Tomorrow. Siege Tomorrow is very good. I kind of don't get on with it because it always bricks, but it would be a very good last card. I ummed and ahed between it and Snag. Basically, Siege has the advantage of the second you find it, you get it played, so it's in the bin. And then you can keep a card in Arsenal and you can use your hat to grab a Seeds at any point where something really dodgy is about to happen and just go prevent 5. very, very big into Kano again, if that's something you care about. Can be very, very big into certain other decks where you can just convert a lot of damage prevention in. I'm not that fussed, is my honest thing. Like, the way I play the deck, I don't find myself very frequently going, God, yeah, I wish I had a Seeds. Other people's playstyles lean much more towards being able to get mileage out of it. So, you know, really it falls down to how you feel about it, in my opinion. I'm going to cover Imperial Edict randomly. It's a cool card. It can be really good. If we ever get into a meta where you're seeing more people doing crap like, you know, it doesn't really stop Poison the Well because do it in response, for example. So not a good example with that. But Oasis, I think, will be the big one. Imperial Edict as a setup at some point in the game in slower matchups, and then going no preventing. You know, you can name Siege, you can name Oasis. It can be very, very good. This clump here, Earthform, Fruits, Fiendals, these have been sat in the maybe pile because Prism exists, and I keep looking at sevens and going, could I load up a load of sideboard with anti-Prism stuff? But I've tried it in a few games, and she's just a bugger. She has so many ways of dipping out of you blowing things up that I just don't think it's worth it. I just take Prisms as a loss. You know, 1 in 100 games you'll win because you just draw consistently. Every other game she will stomp you into the floor, and I don't bother to board for it. Other things to chat about. If you're not hot on the red snapbacks, consider blues, because they're blue and they still get to do most of the combo nonsense. So, you know, you can pitch them into the deck, get more use out of them that way and get something out of it. Etherac's a card I like. That is what I had in the deck before I cut it for the mental blocks. Again, a really solid card, and if you're looking for things to jiggle in, you know, not at all bad. Summer's Fall was a Prism choice, as was Blue, Summer's Fall. They're okay. Earth's Embrace, because it's a blue Earth card, was in the deck in the past. It is no longer there. I don't think I recommend it anymore, but I do keep looking at it because it gives consistency to the channels, and I love consistency for channels. You know, Earth Blue is, you know, if you assume this has a blank text box most of the time and then 1 in 100 games you get an ability from it, I think it's actually the best blue you can add. It's tied between that and the blue root bounds. You know, if you really think you want more blue, that's my pick. And I think the last thing in this sort of maybe pile is Emeritus. It's good. I just hate that it costs 2. I don't find myself needing it much. If you are somebody who leans away from the Ether Flash snapback stuff, I think Emeritus goes in. But, you know, at that point, you know, if you are looking at this and what I'm describing and going, I don't think I'm going to run the snapback stuff, I think I'm running back the energy potions and healing potions, I think I'm going to put the Emeritus in. At that point, go look at Grey's list. Go look at Treyet and Yuki's Moon list, because, you know, my list might not be for you, and, you know, there are fantastic players with good Verdance lists, and I think all 3 of those people have put forward good stuff. I'm not as big a fan on Treyet's build. I think Yuki's is better personally, but again, yeah, I do not like telling people there's a best deck. I think that's a trap. I hate it when people go, this is not the cookie cutter build, and you go, no, it's not. I've adjusted for personal preference, I've adjusted for meta. You know, the best deck isn't always the best deck. It depends what you're fighting. So, I mean, I don't know what else is even in the maybe pile here. Scarfra Scars were a Prism experiment. They work okay for swatting angels down, but, meh. I just think it's a lost match and I don't board for it at the moment. Sink Below, people have been trying out cramming those back in for the Aurora matchup. That is fine until she plays Exude Confidence and just blocks D-Reacts, and you've got 9 of them on the top of your deck and you lose. So I'm not a big fan of shoving them back in. Waning Moon is something I don't think really fits my list ever. It's really geared up for Surgeon. So, I don't recommend it. It's kind of here so I can talk about it. I think that really covers everything that I'd want to go through. Quick mention of Poison the Well's really good in the mirror. Really blows out the combo if your opponent tries it. The second they try and crack a healing potion and you've got Poison the Well, you're in a great place because they are probably not killing you. I think that is pretty much everything in terms of what I've been playing right now. I've been doing pretty well. If we hit the result thing... Oh, this is a copy, so you can't see it. I'm at about a 72% win rate, I promise. I forgot that the results wouldn't come over. This is I label these do not delete so I can link them in the video and they are correct for the time of posting. So yeah, you can't see any results, but I'm at about, I think about 72% at the moment. Down from 75 before Hunted. Just because there's a little bit more bad matchup around. But, I still think Verdance is a solid A-tier deck. She cannot beat Enigma particularly well without very specific build. She doesn't do well into Prism. She doesn't do well into New. Aurora is a nightmare because she's so fast, but I think we've got between 10 and 20% win odds into her. It's not what you want to hear, but it's not nothing. And then into everything else, and I mean everything else, I think you've got good odds. You are approaching 50% at worst onto most people, and there are loads of matchups we're favoured into. So, once you get past those, the nightmare that is Wizard into Illusionist and a couple of S-tier matchups, I think she's just firmly in the mix. I think she has potential to go all the way. I think it's difficult because Aurora exists, but, I think she's up there. I think people are often far too negative on her, and people were surprised when she won some big events last month, and I think they shouldn't have been that surprised. If you have any questions at all, you can get me on the comment section. You can get me on Discord. I will happily chat to you about the deck. I've got a channel full of videos. I will continue to make and post the videos. I'm going to wrap this up with one last quick mention of the Patreon. Feel free to donate. Feel free not to. I'd be an idiot if I didn't mention it, right? You got to hustle. Hopefully this has been informative to people. Have a great day.